And I just needed to pick it up to show you here on the channel what are we going to get. So we do have 3 different colors. We get white and they're purple, or atomic purple they call this, or translucent purple, and the translucent black. But all fun and game and good resolution is in 640 by 480. It's absolutely amazing. But what are we going to see when it comes to the overall performance, but also how it comes with the overall controls? This device has a very nice form factor when it comes to the thickness, but also the way how the buttons are placed. The form factor of the D-pad is quite nice. It doesn't have like a huge curve, but I must say that normally I really love when having a curve. But overall, when you're looking at the way how it feels, it got a very nice resistance, and I'm very satisfied with it. But when it comes to the games, also there we do have some surprising performance. So with the D-pad works great for beat 'em ups, but also when it comes to a Contra game, the question remains, how does it work with fighting games? And I can tell you that I am surprised by it, just actually how good it works, and also for this particular kind of game style. But take consideration that you need to get used to the D-pad, especially when it comes to the touch itself. First off, let's start with some PlayStation Portable. You will see that there are actually some problems with the emulation performance. You will find some hiccups here and there. Let's hold the device differently. All the buttons have been configured correctly. Here we can even made a quick load, quick save. And what I just did is pressing both of the joysticks. So one of the cool ways you can mess around with it, you get into the settings. Oh, pressing the wrong button. Getting in here, we have the option to mess around. Already has been set to frame skip 1. This device is not really powerful, so a lot of tweaks have been implemented to get some of the games actually running. So one of the issues I've noticed a lot with PlayStation, it's not the overall bad emulation performance, no, it's actually pretty great on this. But the downside to these devices is that they are putting files on here, or you accidentally ripping your files wrong, and you don't have any audio whatsoever. Doesn't matter for this review, I just wanted to showcase how fast it loads, and actually also what you can play. The thing is, you don't have any background music, so the soul of the game is absolutely gone. Loading times are of course significantly faster than when you're having the official game on your PlayStation. But the performance is absolutely great. All the buttons have been mapped perfectly. But I don't find it really pleasant to play this game with the very strange back buttons. But let's get into a different game, because this game does have audio in the background. But the overall performance for PlayStation is great. But let's push this device to the limit. And let's choose some Dead Alive 2 with the Sega Dreamcast. And oh yeah, it stutters. It struggles big time with Dreamcast. And that's one of the reasons that I wish they just optimizes these devices more. So what I recall when it comes to the Game Boy Advance, this is not a perfect overall resolution, but still, maybe it's not pixel perfect. I think it still looks really great on this device. I just want to give you an example of what you're going to see in the emulation of the N64. Cruising USA is actually in quite a nice benchmark, because not a lot of stuff will actually run this perfectly or at a decent frame rate, so we can just enjoy this old school classic one. But besides that, it is running really bad. This is a great example of the micro switch joystick at the back, or thumb drive. Oh man. But when it comes to the MAME and arcade games, we can play so many games, but take consideration, if you want to play certain games, you don't have all of the games available. For example, Killer Instinct will not run on this. And we still have this weird thing going on with the shadows of Mortal Kombat 2. But beside that, we do have a full speed going on. Construction wise, it's slightly different than the typical devices. Most of them will be screwed with a couple of, let's say, screws or Parkers, and then they have a cleaning mechanism in the inside, but they're only using screws, 6 of them. It's just a fine construction. Another thing, if you want to remove the battery, you can just use it by lifting this up, or in other cases you can just basically pull it out when the case is assembled, already mentioned before. But I find it quite difficult to reach, and I don't want to pull the cable too much. Maybe with an, let's say, special tool you can basically reach in fairly easy. And the construction, I must say that I'm pleasantly surprised with this. The reason is very simple. I'm pleasantly surprised is that because when it comes to the joystick you can replace them fairly easy by removing the two screws and the ribbon cable over here. The same goes for the speaker. You can replace it if it gets broken. The same also goes for the LCD display. It comes with the rock chip RK3326. It's the same rock chip that we've seen with similar devices. It's a new thing they're using all of the time. But when it comes to maintenance, the micro switches need to of course be desoldered if you need to replace them. I don't really love the construction of the button be straight into the micro switch because it doesn't give a nice feedback, but I already mentioned that before. With the ABXY button, I am personally not the biggest fan of these things because they are so tiny. We have seen devices with bigger buttons and they are so much more comfortable most of the time. Unfortunately, this is something we do see a lot with these devices, but when it comes to the overall touch, I must say they don't feel really bad. So that's basically the front part of the device. At the bottom we're going to get two Type-Cs, one for charging and one is an OTG port and an headphone port at the bottom part. So at the left we're going to get the on and off switch, a reset, and here we can find the SD card number 2. The consideration, and this is actually in 64 gigabyte, there are different sizes, but they're using non-branded. And they are not great because they can get corrupted out of nothing. At the right we're going to find a physical volume control, because in the past we have seen they are not implementing this in devices, but they did with this particular model. I'm very glad because it works very well. And then we're going to have the SD card, and this is the firmware with a special seal, yep, and quality seal, but they are mostly using the same crappy SD cards. And last but not least, then we're going to see at the back a very nice configuration of 4 buttons. But the thing is, what I don't like about these things is that you need to press them very hard. In the inside you can already see that they are basically touching the micro switch underneath directly. There's no membrane, so you don't have very nice feedback. So you're just going to get and click instantly, and you need to put some pressure on it. Another thing I don't like at all, so when you're looking closely, there are some minor differences in the height. It's very difficult to capture on the camera, but it is very minor. And when you're actually holding it, I find that it was quite difficult to get in touch with all of the buttons at the back. So when it comes to this configuration, it's not the best they have that they made with these devices. Another cool thing that you don't see very often with these devices, they can remove the back cover. Here you can get into the battery compartment and just remove it fairly easy. And this is absolutely an amazing overall great thing they did. They didn't showcase this over here what kind of milliamp this thing is, but then you can replace it. That is absolutely great. But most of the time you need to open up these things, and if you don't have any screwdrivers laying around, it's going to be a hassle replacing the battery. But let's give this thing a boot. And with the boot you will see already the first loading screen of the R36S. So it has a similar emulation piece of software on it, only modified. This is called the Arc OS 2.0. The bezel on the display, I must say, or around the display I need to say, is not bad at all.